Hey, what's up, guys? Tukey here, back again, and today is the best day of the year. Well, the second best day of the year. The best day of the year is when NHL 20 will be here, but today it is the next best thing. The franchise mode deep dive has been released, both the 25-minute video and the blog post that recaps a lot of it, and that is what we are here to do today, is to recap the recap of the recap. Recap. It all makes sense if you think about it. This video, quickly my thoughts and opinions and catching you guys up on what has been announced. Although I do, of course, want to mention that anything that has not been mentioned, I cannot talk about yet. And yes, the elephant in the room is roster sharing. I still cannot confirm nor deny. Although I will say, and people will make of this what they will, when it comes to anything that isn't mentioned, despite the omissions for what might not have been mentioned, whether or not that means it's in, not in, or whatever, despite the omissions, I truly do believe that NHL 20's franchise mode is making its way towards being, if not already there, it's making its way towards being the best franchise mode out there for regular console releases. You can say what you want about Out of the Park Baseball and, you know, Football Manager and stuff like that. But you look at the lack of changes over the past few years to Madden, MLB, FIFA. I mean, I ripped MLB a new one back in April. The game comes out in April, yes. I ripped MLB a new one back in April because they didn't change a damn thing. Franchise mode for so many of these games is an afterthought. Like, we're just now seeing FIFA put a little bit of thought into FIFA career mode, which is nice, and I hope that works out. But I think NHL, and it could be a bias, I don't know, I think it's at the forefront here, and you'll see examples of, you know, on this list of certain things that they've taken from these other games, which I view as a major positive. I mean, every year we see, you know, FIFA fans say, oh my god, Madden has this, I wish this, you know, I wish this was in FIFA. We've seen that constantly. When NHL added the new scouting system, there were people, you know, who are Madden only, who were like, my god, if we only had this. So for me, it really sums up, well, the best way to sum this up is this. I have faith in the people behind the team. Getting to talk to Gurn, who is of course, the voiceover guy for that deep dive video. You can ask tactics. You can ask no sleeves. You can ask Ken Littinen, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, behind NHL Gamer. We sat there for 3 hours talking to Gurn, talking to Zane about franchise mode. And you guys know, I mean, I asked everything that I possibly could. And when it comes to having faith that this game's going in the right direction, that it's in good hands, this mode in particular, I feel great about it. And I think this year is another strong step forward. So again, this is going to be summarizing everything, giving my thoughts on everything that was announced. Of course, feel free to check out that deep dive video. I hope, and this video is already a couple minutes long, I hope this video doesn't prove to be as long as that. So let's get right down to business. The first major thing announced, of course, coaches. We knew that as of the deep dive, or the first deep dive that was revealed, I believe, after the NHL Awards. The big thing that kind of sucks about the addition of coaches this year is that we do not have licensed coaches. Trust me, they're aware of the optics of this, and they're not happy about it either, at least in terms of the people in charge of franchise mode. That is what it is. Hopefully it's an addition we see in the future. But as far as coaches are concerned, full NHL and AHL control, associates and assistants with specialties, so they can primarily be, you know, a forward-centric coach, a defense, goaltender, or general. Retired players can become coaches, much like they became scouts last year. Their faces are in the game. I don't know how it'll work height-wise, but at the very least, if Zdeno Chara becomes a coach, you'll have his beautiful mug behind the bench, which I absolutely love. Now, the grades for coaches, which you're seeing on screen, they affect the way the team plays in the gameplay and in the sim, for better or worse. So if you have better coaches, your team will do better. If you have worse coaches, your team will be worse. Yes, there will probably be a challenge where we are likely to take control of, like, all Fs or the lowest rated coaches and see if we can still win. I don't even know if that's possible, but damn it, we're gonna find out. The teaching grade helps develop and can alter potentials. So, I mean, that's huge in terms of a road to glory, just having a coach with a good teaching grade. Might be able to turn a medium 7th defenseman into a medium top 4. I don't know if it's that drastic, but still a pretty sweet change. Coaches can also specialize in helping forwards, D, or goaltenders, or be a generalist if they have well-rounded attributes. The coach influence grade helps other coaches develop around them, so Again, you have an A-grade head coach. It's going to make everyone around them better, which sounds about right. Full coaching stats and award history are tracked. The Jack Adams, of course, back in the game, I think for the first time since NHL 06, maybe 07. I don't remember when the last time we saw the Jack Adams was, but it's been a while. Full career stats are in for coaches and players, and includes what team they were on. So, for example, if you pick up Brock Besser, well, Brock Besser might not be the best example because he's still an RFA. If you pick up Patrice Bergeron as a free agent, it'll show the majority, or all of his career up to that point, that he was a member of the Boston Bruins, which is pretty sick. Coaches also have morale, which affects the staff chem. It affects the coaches overall. It affects the gameplay and the sim. So, really important this year. Coaches affect absolutely everything. Minor thing, there are no more faces for the morale, so it's not, hey, green smiley face, yellow, and just the red, oh, I'm depressed kind of face, or very sad and or angry. It's a bar display, which is much better, and the meters are pretty self-explanatory. Players now have a happiness with staff rating, so that could result in a, hey, you choosing your star player or are you choosing your head coach kind of situation. The CPU also hire and fire coaches. Real-life turnarounds can happen, so look at the St. Louis Blues this year. You get rid of Mike Yeo, you bring on Mr. Berube, and you ruin my summer. That can happen in NHL 20. And there's an alert when an AI fires a head coach, which is pretty nice. They've also added some other alerts in there as well that we will talk about. The next big thing, conversations. So the morale system basically has improved. You know, the conversations that you'd have with players in NHL 19, it's, oh, pick the yellow option because that's the one that has the least damaging effects. It's a little bit more intuitive this time out. The conversations can affect morale across the board for coaches and for players. More options in terms of how to respond, which have effects. It's a little bit more drawn out. There's a risk-reward system with how you choose to interact with that coach or with that player, mainly with coaches in terms of like, hey, and the example that they used was, oh, I want a veteran. And you can say, sure, we'll get you a veteran. If you do that, you get a good bonus. If you lie to him, he gets pissed. So, pretty good give and take system. Coach interviews, you can find out what they find important when you're trying to hire a coach, which is pretty nice. And you can interview prospects prior to the draft to find out more information about them, which is pretty important. Strategies now play a major factor into the sim as well, which is beautiful because there's no longer that debate of, oh, do strategies do anything within the sim? Turns out that now, yes, they absolutely do. That's not disputable. You have line strats, which is ideally how that coach would like each player to play. So when it comes to the fourth line, it can be like, hey, we want you to block shots. And the top line, hey, don't block shots at all. Or if your head coach is the you're going to have the Sedins block shots and get fired within a year. So, if that's how you want to go about things. Team strats, how you want your team to play overall. So pretty straightforward again in terms of like, oh, crash the net for the first line, overload and all that. I believe you can't change those. That's how your team plays is based solely on the coach that you have. There's also a scheme fit, which is similar to what we see in Madden, which shows you just how, the percentage of your team that matches, up to what your coach is doing. So obviously the higher number, the better it is for you because everything syncs up. Line chemistry is finally back in NHL. Thank God. Boosts happen, obviously, when players' preferences with how they play matches up to what the coaches want. +5 is the highest boost to an overall, -5 is the lowest. Those are, of course, extremes and a bit more difficult to get. Player types and players playing in their proper roles also factor in to the boost that you're going to get. And in terms of how the coaches run the lines, ice time allocation is a thing. It's similar, of course, to what we see in real life. If you're Mike Babcock, you're going to run your third and fourth line in the playoffs with the final 5 minutes left rather than sending out your top 2 lines and somehow not get fired. So, hey, there's a factor. Team styles as well. They'll just kind of give you a general view of how a team plays, balanced, offensive, defensive, physical, again, based off the style of the coaches. Scouting-wise, we've seen changes as well. The Pro Scout, which was an option that you had before, has been improved upon a little bit. You can look at other teams, strats and coaching attributes and everything like that. Can also tell you how a player on another team matches what you're looking for. So if you look for a trade and you look at Ryan Getzlaf, you can see how well he compares to, or how well he would fit onto your team and how he compares to what you have going on. In the draft, players now have a listed ETA, which is nice, something taken from MLB The Show. Shows you, of course, how long it's going to take them to be NHL ready. There are less elite and franchise goalies in the draft. Thank God. That was such a major issue that almost broke franchise mode. It's just every year, if you didn't set rules upon yourself, yeah, just take the medium elites and franchise goalies and just trade them for whoever you want. Quick and easy. That's no longer an option. The efficiency of auto scouting has been turned down as well. So another reason or another problem with the draft, and as to why it was broken, is because you could just set it up, auto scouts go, and then every year you'd have, okay, here are your 5 medium elite players, your gems. It's not going to be so easy, and there's going to be a little bit more emphasis on having manual scouting be a little bit more effective this year, which I think is great. So yeah, and in general, again, the whole fewer franchise and elite goalies is just great. Trading has also seen a major upgrade. First thing I want to point out, though, the exempt contracts. Now, when roster editing, a lot of you, of course, would have noticed that I had players like Gabe Vilardi this past year set his contract to 0. That is because, in real life, he is on the LA Kings, or at least was on the LA Kings exempt list. This is their way of factoring that in. It's not 100% accurate because not every CHL player is on their team's exempt list, but that's how it works in the game. If you sign a player to their ELC, and they're still in junior, they will not factor into your team's 50-team limit. So you're not going to have every team at 50 contracts every single year, which is pretty sweet. I will say, though, as far as this screenshot is concerned, the value next to their name, as compared to the normal trade value, that's normally hidden. I'm surprised that snuck through. But yeah, ignore that because those numbers won't exist. But that kind of shows a player's, at least behind the scenes, that shows a player's true value compared to what their trade value is listed. The Trade Finder is now a thing. Of course, MLB has it, NBA has it, now NHL has it as well. You can still do the normal trading, but as far as Trade Finder is concerned, pretty self-explanatory. You want to try to trade David Perron? Say, hey, I want to trade David Perron. It'll give you all the offers that other teams are willing to do. You want to get Ryan Getzlaf from the Ducks. You go, put him in the Trade Finder, and they will let you know what they want back. You might not have anything that they want back. Even if you have players, values and picks that make sense, if it's not a scheme fit, they might not respond to that. So it's not as broken as MLB's. At least it wasn't when I got to play it, where in MLB you could just sit there and constantly trade meh prospects for a really good prospect. Not that broken, at least when I got to play it, the early, phase of the Trade Finder back in April. So very excited for this. Obviously, it's going to cut out a lot of time. It's easier to trade bad contracts with sweeteners now, or to acquire bad contracts from other teams with those sweeteners. So say, for example, and again, the example you used in the video, Patrick Marleau to the Carolina Hurricanes. That's what you could do. You could say, oh, Carolina, what's it going to take for you to take on Patrick Marleau? They respond, oh, add a first-round pick in. Bam, you get the deal done. If you're the Ottawa Senators and you're not run by a terrible owner, shout out to Brian 5 or 6, by the way, you could sit there and say, oh, okay, the Bruins are in trouble. We'll take David Backes, but you have to add a little bit more. And that's, easier to do, easy enough. Trade values can go up or down as well, depending on player performance, which is amazing. It can also alter the amount of money and term, easy for me to say, that players are looking for when it comes to re-signing contracts. So if a player's on a good year, yeah, they're going to ask for more money, which is pretty damn sweet. If players having a down year, guess what? You're going to be able to get them on a pretty good contract, but if that down stretch continues, you could be in a little bit of trouble and have to use the Trade Finder to go ahead and get rid of that bad deal and probably give up a first-round pick. Players on expiring deals are now worth less. Worth less at the deadline. You can still move them at the draft, kind of Kevin Hayes style. With the Philadelphia Flyers and the Winnipeg Jets say, hey, Kevin Hayes is rights for a 5th. That's not possible. Instead of the AI just rejecting it. There is an alert whenever a trade happens around the league that pops up while you're simming. Again, very similar to what happens in MLB, which is nice because Lord knows I hate to be like, oh, okay, we simmed a week, hit B. I don't know why I'm hitting B like it's a touch screen. I'm going to hit B. I'm going to go back. I'm going to scroll. Okay, there were no trades. Let me go back into the sim. Now, if a big deal happens, hey, you're going to know about it. AI trade logic has been improved, just in general, which is nice. They put more importance on their RFAs and will move bad deals to lock down better players, which is nice because now you won't have 1,000 RFAs every year. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but you get the point. And their trade logic has also been improved when it comes to using the trade block. Goalie trade values. This is a huge one. Goalie trade values have been adjusted. Now, they have the lowest trade value within franchise mode unless they are very high-end goaltenders, which is nice. So in terms of the value, centers and defense are the most valuable, then wingers, then goaltenders, which I think, again, is great and matches up to kind of what the standard is right now in the real world of hockey. And again, the high-value goaltenders just broke everything in this past game. We have a few more things to mention really quickly. Miscellaneous topics. You can set the scoring within the sim to high, medium, or low, rather than having to turn off icings or offsides to bump up the scoring, which is awesome. You could still do that, by the way, and have ridiculous numbers. But yeah, huge that you can actually set now, how you want the scoring to be, how high you want it to be. Say, for example, you were someone like Snipe and Score. Shout out to him. Check out his channel if you haven't. He does a lot of flashback rosters, vintage rosters and stuff like that. So if he was in the 80s, he could put that scoring to high to really replicate someone like Lemieux or Gretzky tearing the league a new one every year. The expansion draft now has an extra year option. So, for example, in NHL 19, if you started an expansion with an expansion team, someone like Erik Karlsson would have been a free agent right at the gates instead of after season 1. So that's a nice little change. Auto owner mode's now a thing. Takes care of arena maintenance, which is huge for me. I'll actually use owner mode this year because the arena degraded way too quickly in the past. So the fact that we'll actually be able to have those owner mode challenges now and have that factor in is going to be pretty sweet. The big one. Legends are finally in franchise, guys. Now, they also have all-time teams in the game. Those can be moved into franchise, substituted in. But Legends are finally in franchise. I know a lot of people thought that was going to happen last year and the year before. Legends are finally in. The draft lottery shows how far a team moved up or down, which is kind of nice. You can see how badly a team ended up moving up, which is pretty sweet. Medium grade prospects, so medium elite, medium top 6. Those are no longer guarantees. There's a little bit more of this player just didn't make it. You can end up with more medium elite draft busts, which should make it a little bit more interesting. Scout recommendations on who to draft have been moved to the View Draft Class screen. That option was in NHL 19, but a little bit hidden within menus. And we've also seen improved AI logic when it comes to signing goalies in free agency and trade logic, so hopefully you won't end up with NHL teams having 288-plus goaltenders for no reason whatsoever. And that pretty much recaps everything in a little bit less time than what Gurn did for the video, but man, they change so much, and not all of it's overly sexy, right? It's not a big selling point to be like, hey, the draft lottery shows you how much someone moved up or moved down. But there are so many little things that they've changed that you can't put on the back of a box as a selling point that really have made this mode that much better. And I can't wait. I cannot wait, man. I truly think, as someone who, again, plays the ever-loving hell out of franchise mode on MLB, NBA not so much, but Madden, FIFA, I think NHL is leading the way right now, especially in terms of attention. You could say that there's a lack of give a shit from the other games in terms of how much they care about franchise or dynasty, call it what you will. I have confidence in the guys behind the team right now, and I can't wait to get my hands on this mode again. So we'll end it there because, again, it's been like 20 minutes. Of course, I managed to talk 20 minutes in a recap video. But, hey, I'm excited for this, man. I hope you guys are too. Let me know down in the comments below what you think. Again, check out the full video. The link will be in the description if you haven't already. It's almost as long, or actually this video was almost as long as that one. So, hey, hockey all the time. But yeah, let me know what feature you're most excited for, and I will see you guys soon. God damn. It kind of sucks that I can't be like, hey, I'm really excited for this and this. I'm excited for all of it. It's good, man. It's good. It's good. God, this is going to be a long month.